You are looking at a live shot of the Tampa Bay Times Forum down in Tampa, Florida, site of the Republican National Convention that will kick off for real tomorrow, gearing up to anoint Mitt Romney as the standard bearer for the GOP. And as all this is going on, maybe you're wondering to yourself, well, who would be better for the markets, right? Is it President Obama or is it Mitt Romney? The answer might surprise you. MarketWatch's Chuck Jaffe is here with us. Had his memory jogged on this one by, it's very interesting, you just ran into somebody, right, started talking about it, and this kind of churned some thoughts in your mind. Who's better? I mean, who's better, Obama or Romney?
Well, politics aside, the real answer is the market doesn't care. And I know that that is distinctly not the answer that anyone who's into party politics wants to hear.
Right.
And we always hear it's supposed to be Republicans are better, or folks will make the case, well, you look at Romney's tax policy. That may all be true. But the fact is, let's go back and look historically and say, hey, there's always been some sort of issue that supposedly would make the market better. And the answer is it's all poppycock. It's all hogwash.
Right.
If you take a look and you study it, and there have been a number of really good studies done as we've gotten down the election lane here, you can basically take a look and go, hey, if you adjust for standard deviation and everything else, dating back to 1900, the market hasn't cared whether it was a Republican or a Democrat. Adjusted for standard deviation, performance has been the same.
Okay, so Chuck, let's assume that's true. I'm not going to doubt your numbers there. Why is it true? Why doesn't it matter? I mean, this is the President of the United States. Chuck Jaffe, why doesn't it matter?
Because the president can only do so much. And it's really the policy decisions that will have a bigger impact on the market. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Take the election out of the equation, and what have you and I and everybody who's been on your show been discussing lately? It's been all the stuff that's happening in Europe, all the things that are happening in China that are affecting the world markets. And while the president can do some things that would help, the answer is the big overarching picture, the president is not sufficient to stop. And I think it's really interesting. Of course, people look back with great fondness on, say, the Reagan administration. But if you go back to 1970 and you basically say, let's look at the first 3.5 years of every political term, because that way you get the election time out of it when things might be done to goose the election. The worst of the presidents was Reagan was Reagan's first term. And you're going, wait, how is that possible?
Chuck Jaffe, what are you talking about?
It was supposed to be so great. And the answer is the market doesn't care. The same way, by the way, that the market doesn't care when your kids are graduating from college or you've got a wedding to pay for or anything else. The market's the market, and there will always be stocks that are good regardless, and there will always be things that are bad. So there are definitely things that the president can affect and will affect. But if you think, oh, it's one of the popular theories right now is a split government is good for the market. That's been popular since the 1990s, and the numbers basically say, yeah, that was somebody looking for an excuse or a way to say, hey, I'm trying to explain something else that's happening. It's not true. We've had plenty of split markets since 1990. We've had them a lot longer than split government, rather, since all that time. Doesn't show that the market cares or prefers a split government. That's poppycock.
So does this kind of become, a lot of this kind of become like the Super Bowl indicator or the hemline indicator or all these other things that people talk, and those are real outlandish ones, obviously, but all these other sorts of things that people talk about really affecting the market but actually don't affect the market?
My friend Herb Daroff from Bay State Financial Planning in Boston, and this wasn't even in my column, he points out that in terms of if you're looking for reliability of what's going to determine the market, the outcome of the presidential election has been less accurate in forecasting the market direction than the outcome of the World Series. I didn't even know there was a World Series indicator out there. So
I didn't know that either.
Huh?
I didn't know that either.
So honestly, it's not that the market doesn't care, but it's that the bigger thing you have to focus on is policy. If you're one of those folks who truly believes that, hey, you look at Romney's tax policy and that's going to be more favorable for the market and thus that's going to be a better situation for me, then fine, vote on that and hope that you're right and that's how it plays out. If you believe the Obama situation, fine, vote on that. I mean, what the market knows is that either guy wins, taxes are going up. That we know. We just don't quite know how. So if you have a conviction, fine. But understand that the market really doesn't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat.
Wow. All right. Chuck Jaffe. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Chuck. You can see Chuck's column on MarketWatch and all of Chuck's stuff on MarketWatch, obviously. And stay with us to get all the coverage of the Republican National Convention and the Democrat Convention next week, obviously, on our politics page here at WSJ.com and on WSJ Live. And also, we will be streaming live convention coverage on YouTube. Don't want to miss that. You can see it right there, youtube.com/politics.